that silver trades 220 times what it trades in the physical market on the paper markets. So as a mining industry, we produce 850 million ounces of silver a year, and it trades approximately 1 billion ounces a day, and there's 220 trading days in the year. So that's 220 billion ounces of silver that trades every year, or pardon me, every year, compared to 850 million ounces that we produce in a year. So the leverage in the paper market is pretty outstanding. And, the banks take advantage of it because there's no delivery mechanism. They don't have to deliver the physical. They just write paper contracts.
Silver is one of the best and most unique metals out there, as it plays a role in the industrial side and also as a precious metal at the same time. It's a protection against inflation. It has a history as money. It's essential for green industry, and at the same time, it's in a big undersupply for many, many years. But the silver price is definitely not where we want it to be as investors, and probably our today's guest as well has a different approach on where the silver price should be. Because today with me is Keith Neumeyer. He's the CEO of First Majestics, an absolute industry insider, and I would say a legend in our industry. Keith, thank you very much for your time. It's great having you.
Well, yeah, and it's nice to see you again online.
Great. So, Keith, I mean, we all know silver has a tremendous potential. You talked about 3-digit numbers. So did Peter Kraut a couple of weeks ago on our channel as well. But let's face it, how can such an important metal be in an undersupply for so long and then moving downwards? What is wrong in this industry?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's driven by the paper markets. Once again today, we're having an interview today, and silver's down $1, which is a little bit unusual. You don't normally see, silver move $1 in one day. We have seen it before, and it's often on the last trading day of the month, or the last, when the options are expiring. It just so happens today is the last day of trading for the July option. And of course, games get played like we're seeing right in front of our eyes, and the regulators just let it happen, and they look the other way. I've said many times that silver trades 220 times what it trades in the physical market on the paper markets. So as a mining industry, we produce 850 million ounces of silver a year, and it trades approximately 1 billion ounces a day, and there's 220 trading days in the year. So that's 220 billion ounces of silver that trades every year, or pardon me, every year, compared to 850 million ounces that we produce in a year. So the leverage in the paper market is pretty outstanding. And, the banks take advantage of it because there's no delivery mechanism. They don't have to deliver the physical. They just write paper contracts.
But why is this? I mean, I'm always trying to get people a little bit of perspective, right? It's the same thing as taking your car keys in a bar or whatever and selling your car to 200 people each, right? The same car for 200 people. As long as nobody wants the keys, everything is fine. But if one of them wants them, that's still okay. But as soon as 2 or 3 or 5 want the keys, it's going to be a big trouble. So the thing is, silver is actually used in the industry. Who has such large stockpiles in the basement so we can even get in this situation?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's got to be coming from governments. There's hoards around. I'm sure that's been accumulated in places that aren't reported. We do know that China does not export silver. We do know India imports a lot of silver. I'm assuming Russia is exporting silver, to pay for, what's going on there. I remember a famous photograph of Putin holding a gold bar. I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago. It was actually, I retweeted it on Twitter back then, and I zoomed into that photograph, and along the back wall, there was these pallets of silver, quite a lot of silver. So, the Russian government, and I'm sure there's other governments in the world that own silver. So it's coming from somewhere. It'd be a great thing to know where, but what we do know is there is a limited supply. It can't continue forever as long as the mining sector is only producing 820, 830 million ounces a year currently, and that's not going to grow. And we have these deficits of 200 to 300 million ounces a year. Eventually, the supply is going to run out.
Yeah, I think it was Robert Friedland saying copper is like a powder keg ready to explode. Would you say the same thing about silver?
I think it's there's a perfect storm brewing. I think the copper story and the silver story are very similar. You've got industries where there's been lack of investment for decades. There's copper around and there's silver around, but the mining sector doesn't want to extract it because of the prices, uh, and also permitting. It takes almost 20 years to permit a mine from the time it's discovered to the time you get your first production. The amount of investment and time that a mining company has to put in to get to the producing level is extraordinary. And the risks that the mining company have to take are also extraordinary. We have a situation where we have governments, telling the world that they want to go green and they want to electrify the planet in all these, great ways to reduce the, environmental footprint or reduce the fossil fuel usages, and yet they don't want to permit the mining sector. They don't want to permit a copper mine or a silver mine. Without silver, this green revolution just simply will not happen.
Yeah, but I think it's not just the governments who are holding back the mining industry, it's also the whole ESG thing, right? Where fonds, they are not able to invest into mining because mining is not environmentally friendly. I mean, who would have thought a diesel truck is running into the mountain? That's definitely not good for the environment, but the EV vehicle in the end, or the solar panel in the end, that probably is. And I think something has to change. But
Right.
talking about, yeah,
It is government, but it is government, but it is also the big institutions. 2 decades ago in the 1990s, when I was putting First Quantum together, we would go to the handful of institutions worldwide that financed mining companies, and that's all they did. So there was, a dozen of them or so spread around Europe and North America that we would rely on to be lead investors in projects that required to be built. And we relied on those institutions, and over the years, those institutions have disappeared. I mentioned to a fund manager the other day out of Sydney, Australia, I said, geez, you're one of the last institutional investors left on the planet that just invests in the resource sector. And he knows he's one of the only ones left, and it's quite shocking that they just all disappeared. And for us as a mining company, we look at our share registry, compare it to 10 years ago, where we had pension funds, mutual funds, big specialty type resource investors, and today none of those exist.
Mhm. But what does it need in our industry to get more new players in here? I mean, sure, we don't have the cool cars. We are not the Elon Musk of our industry. But what does it need to be a driver for the long term to get the people's attention?
It starts with the government. The
Hmm.
government has to make it easier for the mining sector because the fund manager, though the fine, okay, if you're going to raise, $500 million to build a mine, that fund manager wants to have payback, and they don't want to have to wait 15 years for payback. So we need certainty in permitting. It should not take 20 years to get a permit. Um, I'm working I'm a chairman of a gold company, First Mining Gold, and we've been permitting for 8 years now, a gold mine in Ontario, and we spend 20 million a year on permitting. And we don't expect that permit's going to be in place for at least another couple of years. And that discovery was in 2010. And then so by 2025, 2026, it might be permitted. That's a long time to wait. And that's not even construction. So, that's over $200 million spent to date on that asset just to get a permit. and then you have to raise the capital to build the mine. The institutions just are fed up with that. They just,
Mm.
they don't want to play that long game. They'd rather go buy Nvidia or Apple or Microsoft and, make their 5%, a year or a month or whatever it may be.
Yeah, but the returns in the mining industry, they can be extraordinary. People just have to be more patient, probably, right?
Well, I've been in the mining sector for 35 years, so I got to be one of the most patient guys in the world. Um, and I make my living, buying mining stocks, and I have to admit I've done quite well doing it. But when you buy them, you have to be used to owning them for a long time. You follow good management teams, you follow good projects, and you be patient, and you trade the stocks if you have to. You buy on dips and sell on strengths. You keep a core position in your portfolio, but you trade a portion of it just to try to get a little bit of profits now and then, and maybe lower your costs over time. And if you do proper type of trading and proper type of managing your portfolio, you can do quite well.
Absolutely. There is a lot of money to be made, even in mining, even in times like we see right now. But maybe, Keith, we can talk a little bit more about the industry and the silver situation itself. I mean, why do you think it is that silver mining companies are not like holding a little bit of their products that they mine every month back and not selling it into the market? Because first of all, there was probably increased the the worth of the company, basically, right? You do have an asset more in your balance sheet, and at the other hand, you're shorting the market situation even more. I mean, the Bitcoin mining industry is kind of leading the way. They are hodling, as the Bitcoin people call it. I know that First Majestics is selling their own silver coins, which is great and definitely a step in this direction. But why aren't silver miners are not holding a little bit back of their silver? I mean, pay their bills, sell enough to pay the bills, but hold more back and add it into the balance sheet.
It's not as easy as you may think. For one, we do have our own mint and we do warehouse. We held over, I think, about 750,000 ounces of silver as of June 30th. Which is a substantial amount of money. It's close to $20 million in cash value in inventory on our books over the quarter. So, we're always trying to hold a little bit back now and then. It depends, though. We're a doré producer, and I don't want to get into too much detail for your listeners, but there's mining companies that produce concentrates, which is a pile of black powder, that is containing all kinds of different metals, including silver and gold, copper, lead, zinc, and so on and so forth. And these concentrates get shipped over to smelters, generally in Asia, for the most part, China, Korea, Japan, so on. There's a couple of smelters in Europe as well, but most of it goes to Asia. And these smelters have an agreement with the mining company where they pay for this concentrate usually 60 to 90 days after they receive it at their facility. And then they melt it down and process the different metals, and the mining company gets paid. The mining company does not have an option to take back any of that metal. It's overseas, it's in China or it's in Korea. Shipping it back to North America doesn't really make any economic sense, and nor would the
Mhm.
smelter want to do it because, as far as they're concerned, it's their metal. So why would they give it back to you?
Yeah.
Um, so that's a difficulty for a mining company that's doing a concentrate, and that's quite common. Most mining companies produce concentrates. We are in the unique situation whereby we produce doré bars, which is a block of solid metal, which is generally speaking 90% to 97% silver, and anywhere between 3 to 5% gold, and then some other metals in there as well. And these bars go to refineries. And there's many refineries around. There's tons of refineries in North America. So it's very easy for us, having mines in Mexico, to put them in an armored car and ship them up to a refinery, and we never sell them. We still own those bars. They go through the refinery. We pay the refinery a refining cost per ounce, and it spits out 1,000 ounce bar of silver, and we take delivery of it in our mint in Nevada, in Las Vegas. So we own that. It's our silver. Then we can do with it what we wish. and we could sell it. We could produce smaller products. We can warehouse it, but that gives us the flexibility. There's very few mining companies that, at least I think we're the only mining company that has that type of flexibility.
Okay, that makes absolutely sense and explains. I mean, obviously, we do have a lot of retail investors and asking why aren't these mines not just shutting down the doors and waiting for higher silver prices? But obviously, you cannot do that, of course. Let's talk a little
You,
bit
you,
more.
you,
Yeah.
you can't shut the doors down because, don't forget, like these communities rely on these mines, and you have a little town somewhere in the middle of nowhere with 2,000 people that live there, and to shut it down, it would cost you a fortune to do it. Um, you'd have to pay everyone severance, and you still have to maintain it. So your care and maintenance costs would be quite high because you're still running electricity, you're still running all the pumps, you're still, running the operation just with no production coming out of it. So your costs are still there. I don't know. It's just, and then restarting it, you'd have to rehire the workforce again. Yeah, it's just not practical.
Okay, so holding back silver from the industry and market is not possible to stop the manipulation. But is it possible in any case to have an end of this manipulation of the silver prices? I mean, you talked about this earlier. They play their games even today. When will it stop, or can we even stop it?
Well, I think it's happening less than it used to. We did see gold, go from 1,800 to 20, almost 2,500, um, um, and there was very little. There was no days there where you saw the big hand or the big fist come out and smash it down. We've seen some, down days in the last few weeks, but I think we're right in the midst of the summer. Don't forget, and July is generally speaking the weakest time for the mining sector because everyone's on holidays and no one's paying too much attention to the market. So I'm not surprised to see the weakness in the summer. But as I believe it's happening much less, and to see silver get through 32, yes, it's corrected, it's come down, but I think it's just showing signs of a new breakout. I think it's getting used to this current certain current trading range. I think people have to get used to seeing gold in the 23, 2,400 level, silver in the 28 to $32 level. And then, come fall, when usually these markets tend to be quite a lot stronger, I'm quite positive that we're going to end 2024 on a quite a positive note.
Are you expecting the prices to go up like within days or weeks, or are you expecting it to, well, move over time and get higher and higher over the next few months and years?
Well, it always makes me nervous when you see prices go up dramatically so
Hmm.
quickly. We did see silver, go from the low 20s, 23 range, to 32 in a matter of only a couple of months. I love the move, of course, but the stocks really didn't move much because I don't think the market really believed it that much. Um, so we really need to see, silver kind of level out here, find a comfortable spot to trade at, and it probably needs to stay there for a couple of months, and then it's going to start rebuilding its base, and then find new levels in the 30s and likely higher. I'm looking for kind of the mid 30s for end of 2024, and probably some number north of $2,500 gold by the end of 2024.
That would be good even for our mining industry and probably for your operations as well. Talking about your operations, I mean you got three producing assets in Mexico. You're producing around 25 million of silver equivalent each year. Mexico is a bit tough in the moment when it comes to mining, especially permitting. I mean you went through it already, so that shouldn't be a struggle. But what will your strategy look like in the future? Is Mexico still the place to be? Are you looking for different places? I mean, I know you can't go into details, but give us a little bit of an overview of about the future.
Well, we just passed our 20-year mark. We just celebrated our 20th year anniversary last September. We've been in Mexico for 20 years, and we quite like being there. Geologically speaking, it's a fantastic jurisdiction. It's permitting has become more of a challenge with the current government, for sure. This current government who's just losing just power on October 1st. Well, the same party is coming in, but a different president. First Mexican female president was elected on June 2nd, and she's taking control as of October 1st. We're optimistic. We're hearing good things about her, and she's not as a hardline leftist as the current government. Who tended to be during his administration, almost anti-foreign investment in a way. He did make it tough on extractive industries and the oil and gas sector. He made it tough on as well. So yeah, he's been a bit of a challenge for everyone. And but we're very comfortable in the environment. And one thing we're all in Mexico. And we're still looking for investments in Mexico. We'd still buy assets in Mexico if the right asset came up. But we're one of the biggest players in the country. So I think we're the third largest mining company in Mexico. So it's we're there. We're entrenched. We're active in 8 states. We've got 4,000 employees in the country. We're very well known. We've invested something in the order of $2.5 billion in Mexico over the last 20 years. And we're optimistic about the next administration. But either way, we'll learn to work with the environment, whatever the government tends to, however the government moves. We're there, and we have great people on site.
That's great. I'm optimistic about Mexico as well. I mean, we've seen the delegation coming back to PDAC last year, which is a kind of a sign that they want mining back in their country, right? But I'm expecting it to change by the end of this year, hopefully as well. What could be a potential driver for First Majestics within the next few months and years for your share price? I mean, beside higher silver prices, do you have like really catalysts going on?
Well, yeah, there's always things happening, and we're very much focused on exploration right now. We just came out with a really nice news release on San Dimas, our largest mine, 3, 4 weeks ago. I'd suggest people go look at that news release. We had some great intersections there. We're coming out with a news release in a couple of weeks on Santa Elena as well regarding exploration. We have almost $40 million of investment in exploration in 2024, over 20 rigs active throughout the company right now. That's a lot of drilling. We're very focused there. We have some good news that we did have some challenge at La Encantada, our smallest mine, last year, where we just lost one of our wells. The well imploded upon itself, and we lost 30% of the water supply there. So, mining requires water, and we had to curtail production. And we just hit a brand new water well in March of this year, and it's now being developed, and we're now seeing throughputs increase again. So, La Encantada has now turned profitable again after having 3 pretty challenging quarters. San Dimas, it looks like it's going to start to turn the corner as well over the next couple of quarters. There's some pretty interesting things happening there. It's profitable, of course, but costs should drop a little bit further. We're converting over to LNG in the next couple of quarters, which will reduce energy costs there, which will help that operation a lot. Santa Elena continually outperforms our budget. I think it's outperforming something like 15% over budget. It almost hit 10 million ounces of production last year. It's going to be around that number again this year. It's just been a fantastic asset for us. So, one thing about a company like First Majestic, we have 3 mines, and there's always going to be one that's going to be a challenge. It's just Mother Nature. It's just I've never ever seen in my career where you have all the operations, outperforming. It just does. I wish it did happen, but it doesn't seem to work that way.
Well, I mean, you're quite diversified with 3 assets. We've been seen mining companies like having to struggle with one asset, and then the whole company suddenly goes down the mountain, if you like. So, Keith, maybe for the end, you're a successful businessman. You have created businesses. You are also a successful investor. We're speaking to a retail German audience here. What is your best advice for them in the current situation? We see all these macro things going on, trade wars, China, Russia against the Western part. We also have the US election. All this kind of things. The markets are quite overheated, if you ask me. What would be the best advice for you for retail investors in Europe?
Well, always look at the management teams. I think that's really key because good management teams will eventually be successful. There's always challenges. The mining sector is not an easy sector. It's got to be one of the more difficult sectors to manage because there's just so many moving parts, and we're dealing with a lot of unknowns. We're dealing with governments. We're dealing with regulations. We're dealing with Mother Nature. We're dealing with the weather. There's just a lot of stuff that we have to manage on a daily basis. So you need a pretty good team that knows how to stick handle and has got experience and has built big businesses in the past. And I would suggest look at the management teams, see what wealth they've created, see what they've done historically. And generally speaking, these management teams that have built successes in the past are really where investors should be focusing their investments. And obviously, jurisdiction is key. Mexico is obviously a great place to invest. Throughout the United States, Canada, there's a lot of Australia, but avoid the obvious ones. Avoid China, for example, or Russia, there are places in the world that I wouldn't simply invest my money and first investing money nor my own personal money. So jurisdiction is key. But generally speaking, good management teams don't go to bad jurisdictions anyways. So you could usually trust them to pick the right projects and pick the right jurisdictions.
Great. All right, Keith. Thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you, getting some insights from the silver industry in general, and really looking forward to the next few months and years following the company, following the silver prices, and I do have a good feeling.
Well, I look forward to seeing you on my next trip to Germany.
So do I. Thank you very much.